The Echoes, Life After Childhood Trauma. Welcome. This is episode 3, How We Learn to Stay Close and Still Feel Alone. This episode explores attachment, how early survival becomes the way that we love. Please listen with care and pause if you need to. I've learned to see my story through 2 separate overlapping lenses, rather than 2 separate lives. One lens belongs to childhood and adolescence, those years when the rules of closeness were written into my body by rooms, by faces, and weather rather than words. The other belongs to adulthood, where you train yourself to function and rebuild, and yet you still find the old rules arriving unannounced when someone steps nearer. Attachment for me is the fragile bridge between those lenses, the part that first learned to hide and the part still learning how to stay. As a child, I discovered that closeness could turn without warning. Home wasn't just tense, it was unpredictable. One of my brothers, high enough to believe he could fly and broken by the fall. The same brother capable of harm in quiet rooms. Rage as a morning ritual, hands in my pyjama lapels, my body thrown across the floor because I simply wasn't moving fast enough. That lesson wasn't delivered as a theory. Relationship could mean risk. Outside the house, I tried friendship like a cautious experiment. We moved away and I returned to the old square by the old house some months later, looking for a boy I thought was mine, in the simple way children claim each other as friends. When I saw him, he stared straight through me as if we'd never met. And the currency I believed we'd made together just didn't exist for him. And that was an education. You recognise at that age that what you feel inside your chest isn't always recognised out there. And you can't build trust on a mirror that doesn't face you. By adolescence, I'd drawn the conclusion many of us draw: need less. I could perform sociability and pass through the crowds, but connection itself felt far too expensive. At college, I remember buying a sandwich and a comic, locking myself in a toilet cubicle for the whole of lunch. It sounds disgusting and bleak, but to me, it was sanctuary. In a small square room, nothing unpredictable could happen. I could be a person who didn't ask for anything. That was the first lens. The second lens is adulthood, tempered, trained, and for a long time, very convincing. I learned to present warmth, to perform intimacy. I know the right words on cue. I even believed the performance until real closeness arrived and my body told a different truth. My face leaned in while something inside me leaned back. My breath shortened, my eyes managed distance, and the old internal manager tuned the dimmer switch down. You might not have seen it or noticed it if you were sitting opposite me. I was good at appearing open, but I could feel the recoil, and the knowing came with its own fatigue. I got married at 18 because I longed for one person, not a crowd, never a crowd, just one safe place to land. That first marriage was really a construct built on the relief of being chosen rather than the reality of being known. I mistook proximity for relationship and promise for safety. And when the performance of "I'm fine" couldn't hold, everything around it shifted and then collapsed. And that's the architecture of an attachment built under fire. You perform safety until you can't. The relationship changes shape, you retreat, and a cycle quietly restarts. These days, I can name what happens in my body when intimacy arrives. There's a micro flinch, a small internal step back, the watcher adjusting levels. The difference now is that I meet it rather than obey it. I breathe. I notice. That simple, honest sentence is often enough to keep me in the room. 20 years ago, I didn't have that option. 30 years ago, I didn't know it was happening at all. In the therapy room, I watch the same choreography play out across lives. People want to relate differently. Then kindness appears and a nervous system behaves as if kindness carries teeth. They often don't see the move, they only feel the shame that follows it. And we inch forward like cautious creatures. When it's safe, the self extends. First the neck, then the stalks, and finally the eyes, and the slightest breath of danger, even imagined, pulls everything back into the shell. And from the outside, the shell can look engaged. It nods, it speaks, it faces you, but you're talking to armor, not to the person. And sometimes months pass before we see the eyes. None of this is melodrama, it's survival, inventive, disciplined, and loyal. We didn't retract to be difficult. We retracted because the body remembered what closeness used to cost. Much of what's called attachment issues are not character defects. They're learned weather responses. We adapted. We learned to stay near while staying guarded, to perform safety because safety was never a given, to look fine because looking fine kept the house quiet. And this strategy was elegant and in context brilliant. It just doesn't know the context has changed. And there is another truth I've said in the room, and I will say here, even if it makes some clinicians uncomfortable. Sometimes the echo that arrives during intimacy is not wisdom, it's a lie. It borrows old facts and reshapes them into a fresh verdict. You're too much, you're unlovable, you're about to be left. And it speaks in a familiar voice because it's rehearsed inside your head for years. It might be an echo of something that happened, but by the time it reaches you now, it's travelled through fear, shame, and repetition so many times, it no longer carries clean data. It wants you safe and keeps you small. It wants you unhurt, and it keeps you unlived. So what do? Not a performance of bravery and not a 5-step plan. We begin with simple recognition and with clean language. 2 lenses. This is the child who learned closeness hurts. This is the adult who can feel the recoil and choose a different next step. Sometimes that next step is microscopic. Remain in the breath 1 beat longer so the body can register that nothing terrible happened in that extra second. And sometimes it's a single sentence spoken gently to the person in front of you. I'm pulling back inside, not because of you, but because this is what my body learned to do. Spoken in the right moment, truth rewires a room. It invites the other person to meet you, not the shell. And there's also discernment. Not every connection can hold. Some relationships will break, no matter how carefully you show up. And others will strengthen precisely because you name what once remained hidden. This process isn't to make all attachments safe. It's to become someone who can notice when safety is present and, inch by inch, stay long enough for trust to have a chance. If you survived closeness by avoiding, controlling, performing, or caretaking, you weren't weak. You were magnificent. You built a bridge over a river that flooded without warning and crossed it 1,000 times. You're allowed to build a different bridge now, slower, wider, with railings and somewhere to rest in the middle. If you hear yourself in any of this, the flinch during kindness, the locked cubicle lunches, whether real or metaphorical, The early relationship built on the relief of being chosen. You're not the outlier, you're us. And many of us learn to be almost there in relationships, in the room, but not in the risk. It makes sense that bringing our full weight to the floor still feels unfamiliar when someone reaches us. We're going to keep working at it here, episode by episode. Not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by telling the truth about what it taught us and what we're unlearning now. And if the statements you trusted about yourself were recorded in storms, filtered and refiltered until they sounded like identity, then the honest question that remains is the one that matters the most. Who the hell am I then? Not the shell, not the performance, not the old lie that kept you breathing. Who are you underneath the filters? There's no rush for an answer. Just let the eyes come out last. Take care till we meet again.